A bad guy is wrestling Jimmy Snuka, a good guy, for the U.S. National Heavyweight Wrestling Championship of the professional world. Tonight, Evening takes a behind-the-scenes look at professional wrestling. But first, here's Jan with the rest of tonight's Channel 5 Evening Magazine. In minutes, fans will begin coming into the Cow Palace to watch some professional wrestling. Now, professional wrestling is, of course, a nationwide phenomenon with fans all around the country. In fact, you can usually find professional wrestling on television any place you go in the United States, often on Saturday nights. Now, the people who make their living from professional wrestling maintain that it is a legitimate sport. And in fact, here in California, professional wrestling is regulated by the State Athletic Commission. But on the other hand, critics and cynics will tell you that professional wrestling is largely theatrics. Phony, orchestrated, but yet violent confrontations between clear-cut good guys and bad guys.
Jimmy Snuka is the greatest in the world!
This is Jimmy Snuka, known as Superfly Jimmy Snuka to his fans, a former Hawaiian entertainer who specialized in the war dance. Snuka is currently one of the good guys in wrestling. He is loved, unlike Playboy Buddy Rose. Buddy Rose likes to be considered the baddest of the bad guys in wrestling. He calls himself the new legend, though he's only 24 years old. He says he likes to see his opponents suffer, likes to inflict pain. He insults the crowd, and sometimes he swears at them. And because Rose is so hateable, because he purposefully presents himself as a terrible person, arrogant and cruel, he makes about $250,000 a year as a wrestler. You see, in wrestling, as in acting, it is the theatrical talent of the participants that draws the paying customers, who come for the show. And so Buddy Rose does everything he can to heighten the drama of it all.
Everything goes my way. He's got an advantage because people are on his side, but I'm just hoping everything goes my way.
Does that bother you when the fans boo you like that?
Yeah, it does, because it's just like any professional athlete will tell you, whether it be in football or baseball, they'd rather be playing in their own stadium or hometown, because it's just like it's a disadvantage for me wherever I go. It's just booing all the time. I can't concentrate a lot of times. The adrenaline's flowing for him. It's hurting me. And it makes it all the harder. But I just do my best to...
Well, we'll have one advantage. You'll be looking a lot better than him.
Hey, that's because...
Tonight's match is one of a constant series of bouts for the U.S. heavyweight title and the belt that symbolizes it. The current heavyweight champion is bad guy Buddy Rose.
What about the fans? Do you think that they really hate you the way they say they do, the way they yell about
I'd say a few hate me, but I'd say it's mostly because of jealousy, because they wish they could be out there doing what I do and making the money that I make. Every fan that sits there in those seats, they probably wish, God, I wish I was him.
Do you play on that? Do you tease them? Do you try and...
I like to just look at them and look down at them. I like to look down at them like, you wish you were me.
That's
you
why
wish you had this belt, and you wish you had my money.
Some wrestlers are cast as good guys, some are bad guys. You're cast as a bad guy. Why is that?
Probably because I'm sadistic, and because I like to deal out punishment, and because I back up what I say.
You are sadistic, you say. You make no bones about that.
That's right. In the last year, I've broken 5 wrestlers' arms, dislocated a couple of arms, I broke a leg, and by doing that, I hurt those people from collecting a paycheck. And I like it because it got me where I'm at. It got me a reputation. I don't mind if the people call me a crippler, because in that ring, anything goes to a certain extent with the rules. And whatever punishment I can deal out within those rules, I'll do it.
So what about things like morals? Like not beating up other people?
Well, I have a golden rule.
Which is?
Do unto others as they do unto you, only worse. You know, and I follow it. I follow it to a T.
Well, let me tell you something, buddy. I got a big title on my hand tonight, so I'm going to make sure that the man doesn't do anything to try to get rid of me, because I'm going to go out there and try to do the same as he does.
Would you try and cripple him if you could?
Well, it's very possible, because in a title match, anything goes, brother. Because when 2 men's inside there, that's only one way to go. It's just to finish one man off. Because when the title is up, you're talking about big money, brother.
who like professional wrestling sometimes describe it as an inexpensive form of mental therapy. They reason that the fans are people whose lives are filled with pent-up frustrations. At a wrestling match, the fans are able to release that frustration by siding with the good guy in his battle against the bad guy. One of the people who understands the psychology of wrestling best is Roy Shire, a former wrestler himself who now promotes, some would say produces, most of the matches in Northern California.
It's a release. In other words, if you're married, I don't know if you are or not, but if you're married,
Probably Mrs. Fun?
well, then if you guys get in a fight and say you go down the wrestling matches together, she can sit there and yell at the guy she don't like, get rid of all that pent-up emotion that she's had maybe for a week while she's fought with you. He can do the same thing, and then when they come home, they're both exhausted. And where can you go and get rid of your pent-up emotions like you can at a wrestling match?
I'm talking to some of the fans, listening to them. Sometimes they really sound bloodthirsty. Are they being vicious?
I think they are, yeah. Because see, society, as you well know, our society has become, if you want to use the word bloodthirsty, more sadistic, let's put it that way. They have become more sadistic than they've ever been before. It's just like any sport, you have to go with the times. As the times become more violent, you let your sport get a little more violent.
Toward the end of the match, it looked like Buddy Rose had been cut badly. Following the traditional big finish, Snuka was declared the winner tonight, but because of a technicality, Rose retained the title. This means they'll have to wrestle again.
Yeah, you lay there and bleed to death. That's all right.
Now, I suspect that a good number of you may feel, as I do, that what we just saw was gruesome and perhaps even disgusting. But was it real? Well, personally, I am not convinced that Buddy Rose was actually bleeding, and I am not convinced that it was Jimmy Snuka who caused whatever it was to flow, as opposed to, say, Rose's manager. A couple of sources who have worked in and around professional wrestling for years have told me about a number of ways that such things can be faked. Now, tomorrow on the Evening Magazine, we're going to check with the State Athletic Commission and try and figure out how much of professional wrestling is faked, phony, staged for the sake of pleasing and exciting an audience. Right now, though, it's time for a break, but we'll be right back with good ideas. We all met Playboy Buddy Rose, one of the bad boy superstars of professional wrestling, and we saw Buddy Rose being beaten by Jimmy Snuka, one of the good guys. Now, the match we saw was bloody and gruesome, but how much of it was real? And do the many fans of professional wrestling, it is this nation's 5th most popular spectator sport and one of the favorite sports of Lillian Carter, President Jimmy Carter's mother, do the fans of professional wrestling care if it's real or phony? Those are the questions we address tonight.
There's no way to deny that professional wrestling is physical and violent, and no way to deny that its stars are athletic in their performance. But many believe that wrestling is not truly competitive because it's staged, something Playboy Buddy Rose hotly denies.
No, there's no theatrics in there when I wrestle. Whenever I step in that ring, nobody tells me what to do. I go out and do what I want to do. Let me put it this way. I'm in shape for this stuff. You may not think so, but I'll lay here right now, and I'll let anybody here drop a knee across me, but I want you to let me do it to you, because I'm going on record on saying this because I'm used to it. It happens to me a lot, and it hurts, but I have built up a tolerance, and through the training that I was trained by Vern Gagne and Billy Robinson in Minneapolis, Minnesota, with Chris Taylor, the 400-pound Olympic wrestler, we went through the same training school. I built up a tolerance in professional wrestling to be able to take the pain, and tonight, like I said, when you watch what happens to me and what I do to my opponent, if you don't walk away saying that was real, then I'll kiss your you-know-what, because I will. Because it's hard. Believe me, the people at ringside out there walk away saying it is real, because it is. Why do you think we got 8,000 people out there tonight?
Because they come for a good show.
I just can't convince you, can I?
But even watching the match from ringside failed to convince me that I was seeing a contest and not a performance. Later, a visit to the San Francisco offices of the State Athletic Commission, which oversees wrestling, turned up this interesting information. The commission has about 1,000 rules regulating wrestling, but not one rule that says it's illegal to predetermine the outcome of a match. Assistant Executive Officer Roy Tennyson.
Professional wrestling is a sport. It is not necessarily a contest. The state law requires that wrestling be advertised as an exhibition. This was put in about 7 or 8 years ago.
Why?
It is, well, there has been innuendos that the outcome of a wrestling exhibition is predetermined.
Do you doubt that? Do you doubt that some of the matches are prearranged?
I have seen wrestling exhibitions that, in my opinion, I thought they were prearranged. I haven't any concrete evidence whatsoever that the outcome of a wrestling exhibition is predetermined.
Do you think that it's the duty of the commission to determine if the matches are prearranged?
No, I don't, because they can do that under the California law. They can predetermine the outcome of an event. States right in the law that they can.
Because it's an exhibition.
That's right.
We saw a match between Buddy Rose and Jimmy Snuka, where Rose apparently at the end of the match was cut badly and bled a lot. Now, I happen to believe that he wasn't really cut. Is it possible that a promoter or a manager or a wrestler would do something like that just for the sake of performance?
Anything is possible. Anything is possible. I've also heard, and this is something I wouldn't testify to in court, that a wrestler will put a piece of razor blade on his hand with a piece of tape, wipe it across his forehead, and cut himself. If you've ever seen anybody cut on the forehead, they'll bleed like a stuck pig. All your veins are right on top of between your forehead and your skull. They're very shallow, and you'll bleed quite a bit. Again, I don't know that that's a fact, but they're still athletes, and wrestling is still a sport. It's not it may not be a full contest sport where the outcome is not prearranged, because they can prearrange the outcome of wrestling in California.
Ultimately, of course, it's those who care about pro wrestling, the fans, who have the right to decide if it's real or just entertaining. And for some, it didn't seem to matter much either way.
What you see out there going on in the ring, is that phony or is that real?
No, real. Real.
It's mainly phony. Yeah, mainly phony. Yeah.
It doesn't much matter to you.
No, I'm just foolish. Yeah, just foolish.
But I think once the night was on going with Jimmy Snuka and Buddy Rose, some people are real.
Maybe on TV it's funny, but it's not funny here.
That's phony.
We try to keep it on a clean plane to where no one will get hurt. And I think that the Boxers and Wrestlers Welfare Fund, which pays for the injuries sustained by wrestlers, will bear out that there are very few injuries in wrestling. Once in a while, a guy might accidentally get a tooth loosened or a bridge broke or something like that. But as far as serious injuries is concerned, there's very few serious injuries in wrestling.
Despite its violent appearance.
That's right, despite its apparent violence. I've seen Red Bastien was wrestling in Sacramento one night. I happened to be there. He was wrestling Ray Stevens when Ray was the top bad guy in California. They carried Bastien out on the stretcher as part of the show, I guess. But I went back to the dressing room, and Ray wasn't hurt at all. I mean, Red wasn't hurt at all. Got off the stretcher, so they got back to the dressing room laughing and carrying on. Well, they put out a report that he went to the hospital. I must have received 50 calls the next day from the fans. Want to know how bad he was hurt. When I tried to tell them he wasn't hurt, they wouldn't believe it. Well, he's in the hospital. He's in the hospital. But he wasn't in the hospital. He wrestled the next night somewhere.
So what does it tell you? That people really want to believe
that
the mayhem is happening, or that they don't believe it and therefore can play?
Well, some of them want to believe it. They really believe it's actually happening.
And they want to
And
do
those people, you cannot tell them that wrestling is an exhibition and that the wrestler wasn't really hurt. That was a part of the show.
The champs don't never win. That's right. You ain't nothing but a big... Finally, I want to mention that I wasn't allowed to go up into Buddy Rose's locker room after the match to check out my suspicions. But I feel that in order to go along with the idea that pro wrestling is for real, requires a certain amount of suspension of disbelief, which of course is essential to enjoy any form of theater. We'll be right back.
Team among the contenders from Florida, weighing 230.